Welcome to Twist Tea, the podcast where we talk about all things scoliosis. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Faye.
And we are your Scoli besties. Today's episode topic is our journeys. As a quick reminder, we are just your Scoli besties. Our opinions are our own from our individual personal experience. None of our content is intended as a substitute for personal medical advice. Always seek the guidance of a medical professional before trying any new treatments. Any opinions shared by guests on our show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of ourselves or our project. Before we get into it, Faye, how is your back doing today and what are you doing to take care of it?
My back is just okay today. I slipped in the rain last week. I did not all the way fall, but when I caught myself, I kind of tweaked my low back a little. So I've been dealing with that this week, and I had a really good FP session yesterday evening, so that has helped a lot. But I'd say on a pain scale, I'm still on about like a 4 or 5 today. So it's going to be an Advil day. I will probably alternate between ice and heat between, chores and things I'm doing today just to kind of manage that I don't irritate it more. What about you? How is your spine doing today?
I can kind of relate. I didn't slip in the rain, but my back is about a 4 or 5 in the discomfort. It just feels very tired. And that like classic band of pain on my convex side is just talking to me today. And I'm trying to do my breathing and I'm trying to do the like rotational awareness and correction, and it's just my back is just tired, and that's not great timing because I'm going to be in the kitchen for the rest of the day and tomorrow because we are recording this the day before Thanksgiving. So maybe it'll be an Advil and heating pad day for me too.
What do you generally find helps that sensation or helps you when you are tired? Is it just things like Advil and heating, or do you find that foam rolling or naps or something specific helps?
I love a foam roll. I bring it up all the time. I love my foam roller. Honestly, with this pain, it's kind of like on or off sometimes. And when it's back on, I go into like a little panic mode because I'm like, what am I doing differently? Do I need, like, why is this back? Why is this here? Because there's not really anything that'll, like, fix it completely. But I think I just need to be a little more on top of my Schroth exercises. I've been slightly lax in them. Like, I'm still doing them, but I'm kind of weaving them into my day-to-day rather than, like, having, like, 20, 30 minutes where I solidly am focusing on it. I'm kind of lightly touching it, and then I think that's why today everything I'm just tired. So I think some good sleep, laying down, foam rolling will help, but I think I just need to be more vigilant or diligent about my physical therapy.
When you do your Schroth stuff, just because I'm curious, is there a specific, like, because you know how there's like the derotation exercises, the elongation exercises, the breath work. Is there a specific subset of exercises that you find particularly helpful with your fusion and your rods?
For sure, the derotation breathing exercises, that's kind of what stuck around. And we'll get into the specifics about my back when we're talking about the journeys, but I had the spinal fusion surgery, so my scoliosis, for the most part, like the curve in my spine is, quote unquote fixed, I guess. It's straighter, but my rotation of my rib cage is still very much there and prominent. And so anything I can to derotate, like even just now as I'm thinking about it, I feel relief on that convex side of my spine. So I just need to keep doing it.
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel like over time, when you start looking into all this stuff, you find so many things that help. But then getting yourself to do what helps, like to do what you know how to do is like its own battle some days where you're just like, I'm tired. I don't I don't really have it like the brain
Yeah.
space to just be like, I'm gonna stop everything and, take care of this. Yeah.
And Shroth specifically is so, in my experience, it's so mindful. It's a lot of breathing and focusing. And sometimes I just don't have the patience for it. And then it bites me in the back, I guess, because you just need to really take that time. And I wish more than anything in the world there was a one-stop shop of, oh, I did this thing and now I feel better forever. And anybody with scoliosis can relate. That's just not how it works. Like, you can have better times and harder times, but you're always gonna, it's gonna be with you. You're going to have to be doing maintenance all the time. And I think I got to a place where I was doing my Schroth PT regularly and doing all of the exercises that my therapist was telling me about. And I really was feeling good. And then I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to do my PT today. I can slack. And then it's like, well, here we are.
Yeah. It's not that different from mental health in that way, is it? I feel like,
Yeah.
you hear about people who try mental health medication for the first time and they finally figure out the cocktail that like helps them a lot. And then they're like, I feel better. I don't need this anymore. And then they try to, like, and it's that journey of
Yeah.
trusting that you feel better because it's working and you're supposed to keep doing it. Yeah, because there's this fantasy of the, like, I won't have to deal with this anymore that always, like, I don't know that that's ever going to go away.
Right now, what's going through my mind is that scene in The Incredibles when Mr. Incredible is like getting back into crime fighting and he tweaks his back and then the robot like gets him and pulls him and then just like you hear a little like snap in his back and then he's like, "Oh, perfect." And then he just like beats the robot. And I'm like, God, if that could just happen, just somebody just stretch me out and then you just hear a little pop and you're like, "Oh, no more
Yeah.
problems."
Well, one of my
American
favorite
dream.
derotation Schroth exercises, I don't know if you've been taught this one yet, is the supine with poles, where you lay flat on your back with the belt and strap and you put the wedges underneath your ribs and then you push as well
Yeah.
to elongate with the poles with the breathing. That is like there's like maybe two exercises that are like my all-time favorite, and that is number one because you get to lay down. I'm a big fan of getting to lay on your back. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna lay down.
And you're working out right now.
You're like, I'm still exercising. I'm just also lying down. But also because the wedges, the like passive correction mixed with the breathing always makes me feel better. Like that is just, it's
Yeah.
kind of a pain in the butt to set up the belt and strap and all that stuff. But like, oh my God, when I actually do it, it's just such a great exercise. And I always feel relief. That is definitely, because some of the Schroth ones, the elongation ones are so intense. Like you get so much correction that when you come out of it, it almost hurts a little to come out because you're just like moving a lot in there. But that one, because you get to lay down.
We love.
Oh, I love it.
And I love any of the exercises with the poles. I just feel like it really gets into all of these little spaces in my ribs and my abs and my like all of those deep muscles can just be activated when you get those poles. I All right, I'm inspired. I should do it. I should do it later.
I believe in you. If you just did 10 minutes of like 5 minutes of two pull exercises, I bet your whole would feel so much better.
My whole trunk. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that'll be great because baking and like all I have for the rest of the afternoon is baking and doing dishes, which as we talked last week is like doing dishes is
Yeah,
a
that's always a trigger.
trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of love that we got to talk about how we're going to cope with our day because I was just thinking, yeah, I'm not halfway. I'm like 80% done switching over my closet for winter and sitting and folding laundry and hanging. It's kind of similar to, it's like those chores just really get ya. And I also had to do dishes today. So I feel like I will also try to make time to do one or two pulse exercises, maybe in between
Yeah.
the chores to kind of like give me a break.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
Oreo
like this
method.
plan.
It's like a little bit of exercise, do the activity, and then do some aftercare. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta order
So maybe the treat. I was watching this thing about habits yesterday and how to like train yourself to do the stuff you don't like to do. And they were talking about creating tolls for yourself. You have to pay the toll. So, like, if you love to watch, YouTube videos or you love to play on your phone some game you have, but there's this thing that's very important, this task you need to do is that like you only get to do it once you've paid the toll of the thing you need to do. And I was like, that's
I
such a
love
smart.
that.
So maybe if the toll I pay is I finish the chores and then I finish with my favorite exercise, then that would be a nice way to, yeah, I'm going to try to incorporate it and see how it goes because I like the mentality of that. Because you said the guy talking about it was like trying to improve his core strength. And so he was doing
Yeah.
planks and he was doing planks for 30 seconds and then adding like 5 seconds a day. But he found that he could get to 30 minutes if he let himself play his favorite game on his phone because he would just want to play the game.
While
So he'd keep
planking?
planking. Yeah, so he made it so that the toll was he could only play the game while he was planking. And so in like 6 months, he was planking for half an hour. And I was like,
That's
that totally
incredible.
tracks. It's like a crazy fitness feat. And he's not some like, gym bro. Like he was just like a regular dude who was like trying to get more fit. And I was like, that is a hack I have not experimented with that. And there are certainly things like I do love watching YouTube videos. And I was like, if I watch them while I'm doing my Scully roll thing, then that gets, like I gotta just find my tolls, which tolls I should
I
pay with
love
which
that.
things.
Yeah, pay the toll. I feel like that's gonna enter my vernacular now. It's like, oh, gotta pay the toll.
Gotta pay the toll. And then you get to do the thing you want to do. It's like win-win.
Yay!
Okay, cool. Well, that kind of segues well into
Mhm.
like as we're talking about your back and your surgery and how your ribs are still rotated and all of that. I think let's just dive in a little deeper into your story. So, can you just start with how you found out you have scoliosis in the first place? What was your diagnosis like?
Yeah, I love it. It's like a time to reintroduce myself kind of moment. Yeah, I first got diagnosed when I was 14, so I was a little later in the game. But before the actual diagnosis, I had had years of discomfort. And I first started noticing it when I went to military camp, which is such a weird, like, side plot line of my life that I went to military camp, but it was actually very fun. I didn't go to military camp as like a disciplinary thing. It was a fun camp. We just had to also march and keep our cabins incredibly clean. And part of the marching was we had to, stand at attention for very long time or very long amounts of time. And I just remember being 12 or 13 years old, standing at attention, and just the right side of my back just talking to me, much like how it's talking to me today, actually, which is very appropriate. Maybe that's why my back is hurting today, because it's like,
It's
remember?
remembering.
Remember when you were 13 and standing at attention in front of the mess hall for 45 minutes and you're just like, what is that? And I started having like fantasies of ramming my back into walls and people walking on it, or like just like there was just this tension, this like constant ache of like, what is, does everybody feel like that? It's only on one side of my back. My left side is totally fine. Um, and then in eighth grade, I had a physical and I told them about my back hurting in that one area. And it was the only time in my life that they had me do the bend over, touch your toes test. And they were like, "Oh yeah, you very clearly have scoliosis." like they pulled out the, what is it, the Cobb angle thing,
Hmm.
and then from there it was get some x-rays done. And I remember at the time they were pretty convinced that I wasn't going to grow anymore because of something in my x-ray said that, like, something about my hip bones and being a pubescent girl. They were like, oh, you're not going to grow much more and you should be fine. And, like, literally, that was the last we talked about it for years at that point. I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep living my life. I remember not really understanding the gravity of the diagnosis at all. I thought that it wasn't that big of a deal other than my back hurt. My dad has a lot of like massage therapist friends, and so I started getting massages and that felt really good. But I just didn't really comprehend it, I guess. I wasn't like, oh, this will be like a lifelong thing. I kind of started thinking if I just get a massage one day, the right massage therapist will just fix it and I'll never have to worry about it ever again. Spoiler alert, that did not happen. I've had a lot of incredible massages, but not that magical one. And then a few years went by, no no physical therapy, no like regular doctor's appointments, but when I was 17, I was like my back is hurting worse. Like it has gotten worse. What is going on? I'm 17 years old and I am dealing with back pain like a 70-year-old, you know? And so we got an x-ray again and they were like, "Oh, it has gotten so much more severe." I don't remember my numbers. I don't remember my degrees, which is not helpful, but I just remember the number when I was 14 being something relatively like you can live with this, and then when I was 17 it was like this, it was like double the number. And from that moment the conversation about the surgery was top of the conversation. It just went right into we need to get the surgery. And in my head I was really open to the surgery because I was like, oh, there's an option, there's something that'll fix this. Yes. Like, I don't even need to think about it. Like, the doctor was like, okay, talk about it with your parents, think about it. And I was like, I want it. Like, let's get the surgery done. I don't want to have back pain anymore. And they were like, okay, well, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you won't have back pain, but it will guarantee that it won't progress. And that was their main issue, was that it progressed so much in such a short amount of time. And I remember the doctor explaining in pretty vivid detail what would happen if it just kept progressing. And that was pretty scary. Like this idea of it continuing to curve until it's like my spine is crushing my lungs and never being able to have children. And it just got, it was just kind of a no brainer for me to get the surgery because that was all I knew. And I had no concept of what physical therapy was. I didn't think much more than, oh, if I do this, it'll make my back pain go away. And so within a few months, I had the surgery. I had it in 2010. I had it January 26th, 2010. I was a junior in high school. And honestly, it was very good timing because junior year was very, very stressful. So the idea of taking like 6 weeks off of school was very attractive to me. And so I like went into the surgery very optimistic. Everybody was like kind of like most people are kind of scared going into this, and I was like, whatever, I'm going to feel better after this. I'm going to have 6 weeks off of school. Maybe I'll get into baking. Maybe I'll get into reading. Maybe I'll like just pick up some new hobbies while I'm not in school. And like really like I had this optimism, which I think is sweet that I had an optimism, but it was totally out of naivete and kind of an ignorance of what I was really signing up for, which is interesting.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience of the actual surgery was like?
Yeah. So, like I was saying, I went into it very optimistic. And, at that time, I had never had a surgery. I was so young. I didn't comprehend how much pain I would be in. And I think, in a way, that served me because I was so brave, quote unquote, going into the surgery. I was, smiling and happy and had like the tiniest bit of anxiety, but really I was very gung ho going into it. But then waking up was a bit of a rough awakening. It was a bit of a whiplash. The way it felt and the way I like to describe it was like waking up, opening my eyes. It was like the eye of Sauron on my spine, of just like that fiery and that core, that white hot core was just my whole spine. And it was such intense pain. And like that was when it hit me of what a severe surgery it was. Like what a big deal actually, you know, cutting open your entire thoracic spine and peeling off the skin and the muscles and moving the bones and then drilling rods and screws and and then sewing it all back up. I was like, holy shit, this is a really big deal. And it took me about 5 seconds to realize, oh, I don't think in this like 6 week healing time that I don't have to go to school, I don't think I'm going to be baking. I think I'm going to just be laying
Oh,
down and crying. like I think I'm just going to be learning how to walk again and learning how to move, it was a bit of a rude awakening for sure. And you wake up and they're very adamant about you getting up and walking right away. So, to help the healing process, which totally makes sense, but at the time feels like torture. You're like, why? Like, let me lay down. I just had a 12-hour surgery. But, you get up and the first time you turn over to your side and you sit up and you just feel like one huge column of pain. And then I remember the first time I stood up and I was like 1 or 2 inches taller because of my back is straighter now. And it was a bit disorienting. Like my equilibrium wasn't used to it. It's like you grow 2 inches overnight. You're going to be kind of like, what? So it was a very wobbly, painful, and fuzzy chapter. And you're on a lot of pain meds, but it the only things I really remember was just that fuzzy, painful feeling in the hospital and then going home. I had some extra complications due to the anesthesia. I don't want to get into like too much like TMI, but I had if you're thinking about the surgery, it's important to know going into it that it's a huge surgery. Your entire body has to be numbed, and the anesthesia kind of turns off your organs. And so I didn't go to the bathroom. I had to have a Foley catheter emergency like put in the hospital because it was like 3 days and they realized I hadn't gone pee, but you couldn't feel it because you're on so many pain meds. And basically my entire like trunk was numb. So I just remember being like, I feel bad, but I can't tell you why I feel bad. And then they realized that I had like 3 liters of pee in my bladder that just needed to get like emergency drained. And and my plumbing just like wasn't working. And so I had to go home with a Foley catheter. I didn't go number 2 for 3 weeks, and before that, I was very shy about the bodily functions of everyday life. And after that, I was like, you know what? Everybody poops. You gotta poop. Poop every day if you can. It's the best. Like, because I felt like I was just, I felt pregnant. I felt heavy on top of this painful surgery you go through. You have, and like you're a teenager. I was 17 years old, and it was just very intimate. Like, you get to know your body in a very intimate way, I guess, which is gross. I'm sorry to talk about all of it, but
I don't think
it's
it's gross. I
important.
think it's important. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's a reality of having a surgery that big that they're not going to emphasize to you before you have the surgery, but I think it's good to share what your experience was like. And obviously everybody's experience is different, but
Mhm.
major surgeries are multi-organ affecting because of anesthesia, and especially because you are like opening up your trunk, right? It's a big operation. It is not a minor surgery. It's a major, major
It's
surgery. So
it is not a minor surgery at all, and I went into it kind of thinking it was a minor surgery, and it was so startling to feel everything that I was feeling. And then also on top of that, just with pain meds alone, they can mess up your digestive tract. So just with the anesthesia and the pain meds, like if you're thinking about getting the surgery, just get some medication to counteract that. Get some
yeah,
stool
prepare
softeners
for
and
the
laxatives.
possibility.
Yeah, aloe.
Yeah.
I drank a lot of like aloe juice and
Mm.
it and prune juice. I remember drinking a lot of prune juice with sparkling water, and it tasted a lot like Dr. Pepper. And then I couldn't drink Dr. Pepper for like 5 years after that because I it's like such
You're
a
like too
rough
too close to home.
connotation. Yeah. But then honestly, the I'll get back to the like actual back stuff. The healing period was pretty fun in that it was the height of Hulu. Like Hulu just came out for the kids listening. Hulu used to rule. It had every single show. It was when Glee
Yeah.
was first coming out. I think I was in like the second season of Glee. And it was back when there were like 20 episodes a season. And in Hulu, you would just go to hulu.com, make an account, totally free. There was one ad in the middle of every episode. So I was actually kind of okay for the month off because I was just watching Glee and like all of the like Grey's Anatomy, and you just got one ad, and it was 30
Those
seconds,
were
and it
the
was
days.
incredible. Those were the days.
I do
And I just
remember the good Hulu days.
mm,
Because literally all the
that
channels you
was a
didn't
magical
have, you could
time.
still watch the show because they would come onto Hulu like the next
Hmm.
day or the week later. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you just have to wait till the next day. It was so nice. So that was my highlight, I would say, if we're doing a rose and thorn of the spine surgery. My rose would be that it was in the prime of Hulu. So that was nice. And then I did want to get back to school a lot faster than I thought that I would. I was fully anticipating to like milk it and take off 2 months if I could, but I had a crush on a boy, so I wanted to get back to school within a month. And I went back to school and I wouldn't have a backpack. I did like an abbreviated schedule. Like I did like a half day at first, and everybody in the school knew about it because I went to a really tiny school. And so everybody was really sweet and helped me out with like carrying my books and stuff. And I couldn't wear a backpack for pretty much the rest of the year. I don't think I had a backpack. I do think that one of my biggest mistakes that it's hard to call it a mistake because I just didn't know, but I didn't have physical therapy after the surgery, which I think really hurt me in the long run. I do remember asking about physical therapy with my surgeon, and he kind of brushed it off. He was like, as long as you're walking, you're going to be activating those little muscles that you need. And so you don't need physical therapy. And I think that, right now I'm in the phase of my life where I'm like, everything happens for a reason and yada, yada, yada. But like, I think I could be really angry about that. Because it really screwed me up, I think. If I had physical therapy leading into the surgery, I think that would have helped. And if I had physical therapy after the surgery, and like scoliosis specific physical therapy, I think would have made a huge difference because then afterwards, after the surgery, it was kind of like, okay, back to living my life. I just want to be a normal teenage girl. I am thinking about college applications and dating and going to prom, like all of the classic stuff. That's all I wanted to care about. And my back just became this nuisance and this thing that I would just want to turn off. And so I did a lot of dissociation and a lot of, uh-oh, my body hurts. I'm gonna I'm gonna leave. And it wasn't until after college when I was like, I need to really take my spinal health seriously. And just because I had the surgery doesn't mean that I'm not dealing with back pain anymore. It was a lot of the same back pain that I had before, and then a lot of new back pain from the healing of the surgery. So I think finding scoliosis specific physical therapies and taking my spine health very seriously has been a lesson that I learned in my like mid to late 20s. And now I'm pretty on board with the fact that I have to have spinal care folded into my schedule every day for the rest of my life. And that's it's honestly fine. We all need to take care of our bodies. Just people with scoliosis, it's a little bit more obvious of a lesson, if that makes sense. And that kind of
Absolutely.
gets us up to
To where we
today
are
on
now.
my
Yeah.
yeah. I'd call that my like abridged version, my abridged story.
Yeah. I I like that way of abridged because I remember the first time I understood the difference between abridged and unabridged when I was trying to read The Hunchback of Notre Dame for extra credit when I was in high school. And I was like, I'm going to do the unabridged because I want to see like what the author wrote. And it's like a 350-page difference.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, right. I was like 14. I was like,
Abridged
this
is
changes.
fine.
I was like, this changes Christmas break a lot.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
It's funny
So,
that it's the Hunchback of Notre Dame because that was my nickname in high school.
oh no.
It's
Yeah. I
okay.
mean, it's it's good that when you came back from the surgery, your friends and your community seemed pretty supportive. Like they weren't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people did, but they weren't like teasing you for it or giving you too big of a hard time.
Everybody
I
was pretty
find
sweet about it, and everybody was like very gentle with me and wanting to help, and it like that's one of the perks of going to such a small school, I think, is everybody it's like one of the like pros and cons is like everybody's in your business, but it was kind of
right.
nice to have everybody like rallying around me and taking care of me. It was sweet.
Yeah, that's really nice. So then, what was your experience like? So it brings you to now, and initially, you didn't have a lot of, like, would you say the surgery felt successful to you? Like, the pain eventually from the actual surgery goes away or gets much better. Did you find that overall, for like a certain amount of time, you felt great? Or did it never get to great? Like, what would you say your journey after the surgery till now? Like, can you track sort of like the pain scale for us a little bit, like a timeline maybe?
Yeah, I would say right off the bat, it never got great. There was never
Okay.
really a time when I felt like, oh, yay, it's fixed, which is a bit of a bummer. But I do know that some people do have that experience. So I do want to put that out there for anybody listening. I know a bunch of people who have their version of this story is I had the surgery and now it's great. I don't have back pain anymore. Awesome. That's so cool. That's so, so cool. I think the reason why I still have the back pain is because of the rotation I was telling you about. That just kind of stuck around. So I would say that right after the surgery, there's that 10 out of 10 pain of your healing. Your body has been flayed. Like you have to just sit and heal. Your muscles are healing. It's just a lot of pain. And then I kind of went into a numb sort of pain, which sounds very like oxymoronical, like how can you be numb and in pain? But it I guess it's if you know, you know, like a lot of it's like my skin was numb on my back, but the it's like my body knew something was wrong even though it wouldn't be telling me the exact pain signals. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I can
Um,
relate to that from my knee surgery where they cut so many
mhm.
nerves in the surgery that your sense of your like awareness of pain shifts a lot because there are these like dead
Mhm.
zones where the nerves are not connected, they haven't healed, right? And nerves I think
Yeah.
are very slow compared to muscles and skin and stuff. So, it takes like 6 months for them to do what your body everything else does in like a month or two. It's just much
Yeah.
slower process. And there is this difference between bone pain and surface pain. So sometimes you're like numb on the
Mhm.
surface, but your bones ache or like your joint aches. And that's like
Yeah.
it is a little bit oxymoronic because you're like, well, in one sense, I can't feel anything, but in the other sense, like I can feel there's something hurts. And you're like, I think it's confusing because the signals are
It
not
is.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fuzzy signal for sure because I just remember being like my back hurts and my dad being like, "Where?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like everywhere? Not there. There. Or like I when I started getting massages again, that feeling of like I actually can't feel what you're pressing on, but I know that's it. Like that's the spot. But also, if your body is just constantly sending you pain signals, eventually your brain isn't going to pick it up because it's like you're not doing anything with this information. So I'm not going to bother
Right.
you with constant like pain flares, but it's still like something is wrong. And so when a massage therapist is kind of like raking through those muscles, even though it is weird because I can't feel it, but I can feel it, which makes no sense.
So
Yeah,
then
I
after that, how long do you feel like it was until you started having like new pain? Because you've had an additional surgery since to fix
yes.
stuff. So I'm curious, like, when did that start? When
Oh,
did those issues crop up?
yeah, that surgery, I forgot about it in my story. I was like, I did it, we're done. Oh yeah, that revision surgery I had. Yeah, I think in college was a new level of pain when because I was walking a lot, you walk to class and you have a big backpack, and that's when I started getting shooting pain down my back or down my arm, I mean, just because my backpack was so heavy and you're walking for like, I parked like a mile and a half away from campus, so I would have to walk every day. And that's when I started getting this radiating pain. Because for so long it was like only this spot, only the convex side achiness that would be very distracting, but it would be localized, right? And then in college is when it started to move up into my shoulders and then down my arm. And I remember my right arm falling asleep a lot. especially with the backpack on. And so that was like my first interaction with like, ooh, new pain. This sucks. And then I went to massage therapy school after college, and that was the best because if you go to massage therapy school every day, you get a treatment done. So you have to give a treatment and then you get a treatment. And the life hack there is to always go first. So you have to give, or you like give the massage first, and then you can end the day with getting a massage. That was very nice. So I got pretty much a treatment every day for a year. And I was like, this is going to solve it. This is going to solve my pain. And it did not, unfortunately. But I was very good at giving massages because it was like, I am so intimately aware of knots in my back that I could find knots in other people's back. And I think there was this like thought, if I could massage the tension out of this person, maybe it would help me. like, so I was a very popular massage therapist, and I took that skill. I graduated with that, and I got my license, and I moved to Los Angeles. And guess what I was doing? Probably the most stupid thing in the entire world. I was a traveling massage therapist with a table going up to people's apartments in LA. And that means that you're street parking and lugging a huge table around. I don't know why I did that. I'm like, that seemed like a 101 kind of thing. Like, don't do that. But I did. And it got to the point where I'd be giving people massages and I'm mad at them because I'm like, your back doesn't hurt. My back hurts. like, and that's just not the energy you want to bring into a massage and not the energy you want to get when you're getting a massage. And at the time I was doing a lot of yoga, specifically hot yoga, and I was in the I had this like mental I had it in my head that if I just stretched far enough, it would fix it. It would fix my back. If I twisted enough, it would fix it. If I if I pushed enough, it would fix it. I was very much like in my extreme. Like that would be my like mid 20s. It was like if I push harder, if I twist harder, if I stretch harder and further, it'll fix it. And I think at some point between the lugging of the massage table to the twisting as far as I can go in my yoga class, my hook on the right side, right at T2, where my like scapula and spine meet, the hook holding the rod slipped off and got stuck in between my shoulder blade and my spine. And then I started having a lot of rib pain and rib subluxations. And that was a different type of pain because at this point I'm very used to muscular tension. And then this was like sharp bone, anger kind of pain, like pinpointed pain. And I was 27, I think, when I got an x-ray done just to double check because so many times I'm like, something's wrong, and doctors are like, you're fine, it looks fine. And this time I went in and we got an x-ray and the doctor was like, oh, you see this part here, this little hook? That's not supposed to be there. That's not what that's supposed to look like. And in a way, honestly, it was very validating because it was like, I knew it. I knew something was wrong. And look, there it is. There's this very real thing. Because anybody who's dealing with chronic pain can tell you that it's really frustrating trying to justify it to a medical professional and trying to kind of like prove your case to a medical professional. Like, no, I promise you I'm in pain. Here's my like documents explaining it. And then this was just such a, you know, yeah, of course I'm in pain. There's this hunk of metal someplace drifting in my back that it's not supposed to be. Boom. And
How
so
many
then the question,
oh, how many doctors dismissed it before one was like, "Oh, let's figure this out."
I think about three doctors. I think
And did
she
they
was the
just
third doctor.
and it was a woman doctor? Just curious.
Yeah, it was a woman. The other one were men. Just take that for what you will.
Okay. And so she finally was like, "Oh, there is, let's actually look at this." And then she realized from the x-ray. So did the other ones not even ask for an x-ray?
I do believe I did get x-rays, but I think they just didn't catch it. I think they were looking at the overall structure and they didn't see because it doesn't,
They didn't see the hardware
jump out at
itself.
you. Yeah, it doesn't jump
Yeah.
out at you right away. So I think she was the only one that really looked at that specific spot and was like, this does look weird. And it's so funny because for years at that point, I had this kind of protrusion coming from my back, this like bump next to my spine. And I was like, oh, that just must be like a screw head or something. Like I just didn't, I'm not back there. I can't see, I can't feel what's going on. And so I was like, oh, I guess that just must be what the hardware is like, and everybody has that. And turns out that was not in the right place. And then after that, it was another three doctors to convince that did want I did want a revision surgery to get that hook taken out because the first two neurosurgeons, I should say, were like, we can't guarantee that it's going to help. And it seems like riskier to go in and take it out. And I was very frustrated with that and honestly very angry at that point with the medical system. I've come a long way, but at that time I was like really frustrated because in my head I'm like, what do you mean I'm just going to live the rest of my life like this? Like I I can't just live my life with a piece of metal. Like it just felt so wrong to be like there's a hunk of metal in the wrong spot in my back and it's causing problems. And you want me to just deal with that for the rest of time? And I think their thought was, well, we're not completely convinced that those problems that you're feeling are in direct relation to that piece of hardware. And in my head, I'm like, what do you mean? The problem is right there. It hurts right there. And now we found out that there's a piece of hardware right there. Let's take it out. And then I found the third doctor who was pretty on board with it. He was like, yeah, let's get that out of there. And it was
You
just
mean
such a
the
funny,
third surgeon? So it took three
yeah,
doctors to identify the problem and then three
yeah,
additional surgeons to address the
yeah.
problem, just so the audience knows what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for the context. Yeah, exactly. Like three doctors before and then three surgeons after. And on the third surgeon, he was very much like, yeah, let's get that out. Sounds like it hurts you. Let's get it out. And I was like, refreshing. I love this. I love this guy. And I do remember asking him if it'd be okay, like, should we take out the left hook as well, just because it seemed weird to me to have an imbalance. But he was like, no, the left hook has fully fused, meaning that scar tissue bone has grown over, and it would probably be more traumatic for my body to take out a left hook that's fine and snug and doing doing its job. So let's just take out this like bent hook. And I do understand that, but right now I wish that we also got the left hook removed just because I have a snagged, pinched nerve on the left hook for the last 2 or 3 years. And I don't know why, but it does just kind of feel strange that it's not symmetrical. And I feel like my body doesn't like that. But I also understand the logic. I think it follows. Like sometimes when doctors say things, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then when he was saying that, like that does make sense. If it was fine and if it's in there and tucked away, let's not aggravate something that doesn't need to be aggravated. Just now, that's where we're at with a
So, on a
pinched nerve for three
scale,
years.
which is not fun at all, on a scale of 1 to 10, when you did your initial healing, so you're in your like early 20s, what do you think your average pain was? 1 being very little, 10 being a lot. 10 being like when you woke up from surgery.
When I was in my early 20s,
Yeah, like right after, once you've kind of done the initial healing from the surgery.
like honestly, I think my good days were sixes and sevens. And
And then when you started
yeah,
having additional problems, what would you say your daily pain was?
tens, man, 10. Like, if it's hard to, that 1 to 10 scale is, it took me a long time to understand what that meant. Because I'm like, well, a 10 is probably like, I don't know, getting smushed by a building. Like, we're
You're like, it's
dying.
dying. It's dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a 10 really is like, I can't really function other than this. Like, it's all I'm thinking about. The pain is constant. The pain is top of mind. The pain is sharp and real and distracting. Like I feel like 6, like once you get to like a 5 or a 6, that's when your day-to-day activities are hindered.
Affected.
That's when you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that thing that I want to do because of my pain. And I'm thinking about my pain. So by that metric, those like sharp pains were definitely nines and tens because it was just it was just ruining my mood, ruining every road trip, ruining, like I would be going to like New Year's parties. I remember this one New Year's party. I just had kept like having to excuse myself and go up to a room and just lay on the floor and cry because one because of the pain and two just because of the frustration of this this pain, not knowing what to do about it. And then there's this like emotional feeling of like, am I just gonna live like this forever? Like, is this the rest of my life? I'm just gonna have these like phantom sharp pains forever. And so it's very emotional on top of physical, right? And I'm very glad to say that even with my pinched nerve, I rock a good 3 or 4 on the pain scale on my average day. Like
Now.
right now, yeah, right now I would say I'm at like a 6 or so with the discomfort just because it's starting to be like, ugh, I'm thinking about it. I'm constantly feeling it. But that's probably the worst it's been in a while, which is very, very nice. If I spend the rest of my life between 2 and 4 on the pain scale, I'll consider that a win
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so, I think that's so important to share because I do think that if you don't have chronic pain or you're new to it, understanding what chronic means is just like you can't picture it because you've not
Mm-hmm.
lived it yet. You know what I mean? You're just like, it just hurts today. And like I said, that fantasy of this magic thing happening and it just being solved one day is
Yeah.
so real. And then like the acceptance of like, I'm actually just going to be okay with like less pain. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to wait for the day it magically isn't there. I'm just going to be super excited about the days when it's like, oh, this is nothing compared to before. I can do all the things I
Mm-hmm.
want to do in my life. I don't have to change my plans around this in discomfort. I can I can live unhindered for the majority of activities. Like that's actually a massive accomplishment. And I think until you've
Mm.
experienced what chronic means for a while, it is hard to realize that what you're asking for is that. What you actually want
Yeah.
is that. not, I
and
mean, of
and
course,
it's
the magic solve is like a it's like a great fantasy, but when you realize that that is a
right.
fantasy, then you realize, like, oh, what I really want is to not have to alter my entire day every day
I
just
think
to
it's such
manage
an
it.
irony. Yeah, like, I think there's something so ironic about it. Like my mental space, if I were to go back to when I was 20 years old and not doing anything on my day-to-day life to take care of my back, but my pain was so extreme. And it was like it was kind of this all or nothing mentality of like I and that fantasy of like getting hit by a car or getting like pulled apart by a robot and that's just like fixing everything. Like that was when I very much had this like one day I'll find the thing that fixes it completely and I'll never have to worry about back pain again. But then my activities of every day was ignoring my back and doing all kinds of things that aggravated my back, but not not thinking about it, right? And kind of shutting it down. And so then it had to get so loud for me to pay attention. Whereas today, you don't want to admit, oh, I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life. But it's actually taken that acceptance of this is my back, this is my body, and it's constantly talking to me and telling me things, and I just need to take care of it every day, a little bit or a lot of it. I have to, and accepting. I think if I were to sit my 20-year-old self down and be like, "Hey, you're never gonna not have back pain to worry about. You have to fold it in. You have to accept it." I would have been so mad. I would have been like, "Fuck off. I want I want this fantasy." But it's taken this irony of accepting it and then nurturing it every day. And then you'll be the pain will be manageable, which is just that's a lesson in life for everything, by the way. Like, these are all about scoliosis specifically, but like, that's life, baby.
Yeah, like it doesn't get easier. You just get better at dealing with the hard stuff, for sure.